Welcome to the set piece with Scottish Sun Sport in a week when it genuinely is sink or swim for Russell Martin at Rangers. With me today, I'm Bill Leckie. With me today, David Friel. What about this? Russell Martin under so much pressure, and then he didn't help himself by taking his players to swim in Loch Lomond.
Did you ever read up yourself this morning, Loch Lomond?
No, I have done it before. I'm not a great swimmer, but I did once capsize a canoe in Loch Lomond. I can tell you, bring a jumper, right? It's now I know players do ice baths, but oh my God, that's a shocker, isn't it? So what do you think?
It's been in a crazy period for Scottish football. I suppose it's always crazy. I didn't expect that little twist during the week. But when was it? Monday, the pictures started coming through. We're sitting in the office upstairs, I'm thinking, no, Rangers players aren't in Loch Lomond, and then the Conic Hill. Yeah. Part of it, by the way, anybody watching? Beautiful part of the world, great pursuit, great to get right up the top. And then it transpired, yes it was a kind of away day, a reset, a refresh. I don't mind it, it's the timing of it, and I think Russell Martin might think, well, he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I think in normal terms, I don't think it's a worst idea. I think with everything going on just now, you're open to so much scrutiny. Yeah. I think the inevitable reaction from the fans was going to be, what is he playing at? What are they
He's
playing
lost
at?
The plot, yeah. The Jamie O'Hara thing.
Yeah, go to the training ground. I'm probably somewhere in the middle with it. I'm almost torn, and I'll go back to this word, optics. Yeah. Probably not.
So Jamie O'Hara on Sky Sports on Tuesday, as it was being spoken about, was very much, he's lost the dressing room. If you have to do that, if you have to have a bonding session 6 or 7 weeks into the season, you've lost it. I kind of agree that bonding, now, I'll come back to this in a second, but if you're going to do something like that, I would have said do it in pre-season, when you're getting to know everybody, you're battering them with double sessions, they've not played any games, and you say, listen boys, we're having a bit of fun today, I'm going to take you swimming in Loch Lomond, I know you're going to hate it, but trust me, I do this, you'll like it, then we'll go for a wee hill walk, it'll just, and we'll get a chat with each other. I don't think off the back of losing 2-0 at home at Hearts on a toxic day at Ibrox, and the build-up to a League Cup tie at home to Hibs on Saturday night, which could make or break. It really could be sink or swim. I just don't know. I just don't know.
Is it brave, bold, or foolish?
I think all of the above.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, Russell Martin is a different kind of thinker. We knew that from the start. He's vegan. He's dabbled with meditation and Buddhism. He does a bit of swimming in the sea himself. He does the cryotherapy chambers. He loves an ice bath. So he's willing to think outside the box. He's not. You did a great piece with Ian Holloway, where Ian Holloway said he really liked the idea because managers shouldn't be serious all the time. They shouldn't be doing the same things. I read that and thought Ian Holloway is right, but Ian Holloway's a different guy. Ian Holloway's a guy you expect the crazy from. I know. I suppose that the definition here, the line is it thinking outside the box or is he out of his box? That's what fans are going to say.
Yeah, and that's, Ian Holloway, so we're recording on Wednesday and Tuesday we're looking to get the reaction in a different angle. Speaking to people, I was speaking to a lovely lady called Morag Murphy who's a Welsh swimming expert.
She's really interesting.
We've got Jamie O'Hara in balance saying he doesn't think it. Morag was all for it, said it's a huge, great thing for team bonding, great thing to unwind and relieve stress. And then Ian Holloway, when the phone goes yesterday and it's Ian getting back to me, I'm thinking this could be gold, and it was gold. He was great, and he gave us a great insight into why he did what he did. And it's in the Scottish Sun, Wednesday's paper, it's on the website just now, and he's talking about taking QPR players to ballet classes because he just wanted them just to get out of their comfort zone. Took Blackpool to a slip and slide, a water park. Said I did it as well. One day it was snowing or freezing, and he thought the only place we can train is the beach. So he got him to carry goals all the way down to the beach, and they worked out a pitch on the beach and trained there. And his point of view was you don't always have to be serious. Sometimes you have to lighten the mood. Sometimes you have to just give players something different to think about and get them together. So I would imagine Russell Martin has thought all of that. The problem is that, as you say, Ian Holloway is viewed as this wacky madcap manager with different techniques. Russell Martin's in a situation just now where he is quite literally hanging on to his job.
Absolutely.
And I said, is it brave, bold or foolish? I think we'll probably only know that at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. Because see if Rangers do beat Hibs, see after, I'd imagine, say somebody scores a last minute winner, if I'm them, I'm out doing the swimming celebration and stuff like that. And suddenly Russell Martin will be said, that was brilliant, that really revived everybody, that got everybody together. If it goes badly, the Rangers fans will be saying, would you not be better have spent Monday trying to get a partner play together, trying to get us together? So,
listen, there's different ways to do these things. When Walter Smith was at Rangers, his way of doing it in a bad spell was he'd bring them in, tell them to be ready for training, he would tear them a new one, and then he'd walk them down Paisley Road West to a cafe for a bacon roll and a pot of tea. And then he'd say, right, you've got the rest of the day off, go and sort it out among yourselves, right? That's his way of doing things. Other people do triple training sessions and run them till they're sick, you know. Brian Clough used to disappear for 3 days and leave the players to sort it out themselves. And you know, when I come back, if this isn't sorted, you're in trouble. Russell Martin's taking it down a different route. I do think you're right. I think Ian Holloway, Jim Leishman, Dick Campbell, guys who have always thought outside the box. You wouldn't think twice about it. If they told you we're doing ballet lessons, you'd go, that's very Holloway, Campbell, Leishman. Russell Martin, it is a big gamble. Because Saturday there against Hearts really got pretty horrible for him.
Oh, it did. I was there working, and it was. I genuinely didn't think a football ground could ever be that toxic in terms of towards a manager. Bill, it was genuinely unbelievable. It's pretty uncomfortable actually to see it, and I think it's. I think there's many reasons for it. As he alluded, as he said himself, a lot of Rangers fans didn't want him in the first place. We're always sceptical, and we're seeing zero signs of progress. And where Rangers are right now is unacceptable, clearly. I think the style of play isn't helping. I think the success of other teams that have kind of done a rebuild, like Hearts, prime example, isn't helping them. And I also think that with the Rangers fans have had a lot of false dawns over the last few years. There's been a lot of, this is a restart, this is a rebuild, you know. There's been some success, Steven Gerrard winning the league, going to a European final, but then they've had the Michael Beale, Brave New Dawn, never worked. Philip Clement, it never worked. And I think most Rangers fans felt this summer, with new owners, with investment, and let's face it, Rangers spent a net spend of £20 million, according to Kevin Thelwell. I think Rangers fans, on the whole, thought this is it. You know what, this is the fresh start you've probably been wanting for 10 years. And for the bubble to burst within 104, 105 days since Russell Martin took over, it's unbelievable, because Rangers aren't just kind of going along steady. They're going backwards just now. And I think that's quite hard for a lot of Rangers fans to take in. It's almost a shock factor.
And one of the things that I seen, I was writing about this in my column on Monday, the bulk of Russell Martin's signings have never been in this kind of situation before. And 4 draws and a defeat at the start of the season at Bournemouth, at Wigan, at Sheffield Wednesday, at Wolves isn't the worst thing in the world. It's a base to build on. At Rangers, and these guys must be your Max Aarons and your Magomas and, you know, Gassama and Asgard and all these boys. They must be going, what have I walked into here? You know, and it's, they just, and I genuinely, and I hope if Russell Martin happened to be watching this, he doesn't take this too badly. But I genuinely think he thought it was going to be so much easier than it has been. I think a lot of people come up from England and think Scottish football is just going to be a bit of a rollover. But you look at the teams Rangers have played this season, they've all had different styles. You know, Motherwell, Dundee, Celtic playing really badly, St Mirren, Hearts, they all play different kinds of football. And Russell Martin has stuck to his style of football in every game and has never once seemed to think, what do I have to do to beat this team? It's what do they have to do to stop me?
I think the Celtic game was the one where he probably tweaked it and maybe went a bit more direct, but purely because I think he realised he couldn't afford to lose that game. To get back to the whole mentality thing in terms of the players, the one line that really jumped out at me after the game against Hearts was when he said the players were scared. The players were scared. Now, that's from us looking from the outside looking in, when you see younger players really struggling, it's easy for us to say that, you know, the jersey's too heavy, but Russell Martin almost admitted that they really are struggling to cope with the demands. Now, you've got 2 options there, you know, sink or swim, to get back to the punch. But you either suck it up and just go on with it and be brave, want the ball, be courageous. I mean, Chris Boyd was talking the other day about the mentality and the personality you need, and he mentioned Charlie Adam. And Charlie Adam wasn't always a Rangers regular, right? No. But he had this unshakable belief in his own ability.
The ball. He would take the ball anywhere.
And he actually said that. He said, you could see Mikey Moore, and this isn't a criticism of Mikey Moore, because he must be coming up from Spurs thinking, what have I walked into here? Chris was talking about when he was going over to take a corner and the grumbles are there, and the Rangers fans are desperate for something. He felt it was really affecting him. And he kind of likened it back to Charlie Adam, who was so gallus. He would it doesn't matter if you're 2-0 down. If he would swagger about thinking, this is my chance to show what I can do. I'll whip the best corner in ever. And that is the difference. That is the difference. And that is where, I don't know if you can instill that in players.
No,
but
I don't think
if you can't, then you've bought the wrong players, or you've bought the wrong experience.
Right, so here's the thing. Rangers were losing games far too easily last season with the players they had. It was 2-0 defeats at home, which were pretty much the same plan. They were running about, they were a wee bit worried. The fans would grumble, they'd get into themselves, they'd lose 2 goals, the place would go mental, right? And then they'd come out and say, we're really sorry, we owe the fans one, we'll get it right next week, and then they didn't. So when he comes in with this sort of blueprint of changing everything top to bottom, turning around the tanker, the players he signs should be guaranteed to make that dressing room better. But he's now saying that those players are finding it hard because they're coming into a dressing room that has been unsuccessful. Those new players should be coming in and saying, right, move over now. The grown-ups have come in. And that's where I find the signings baffling. Who scores the 2 goals on Saturday? Lawrence Shankland. No. Could have come on a free transfer. I said on here 2 weeks ago, it was utterly baffling that they were spending £8 million on Chermiti, who hasn't scored in nearly 3 years, when they could have got Lawrence Shankland for nothing. You could have got a Danny Armstrong from Kilmarnock, who's away to Romania. You could have got James Penrice from Hearts, who's away to Greece. But instead, those guys are all course and distance. They know the Premier League. They would settle you down. They would win you games.
I mean, that's just it's common sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It comes back to the recruitment strategy, and it maybe also feeds into what you're saying about. And I suppose the accusation against Russell Martin, did he underestimate what was needed in thinking you can bring up guys who didn't know Scottish football and just cruise it? I'm not so sure he did, but I think Kevin Thelwell, as as director of football and heading up the recruitment side of it, they've overlooked the domestic market.
Yeah,
and I don't know whether that was just out of circumstance or just down to the fact that they didn't actually rate the guys who were clearly on the radar, because Lawrence Shankland, if Barry Ferguson or anybody else had stayed, Lawrence Shankland had been saying. Josh Mulligan was on the radar. James Penrice, I would imagine, was on the radar. Barry Ferguson actually walked. Bizarrely, Barry Ferguson the other day name-checked Alec Gogic as a player who he actually liked and actually thought, you know what, he could maybe do a job, which just shows you,
But if you look at the players that have given Rangers problems in the game so far this season, Shankland for sure. I think the one, Killian Phillips, it's exactly what Rangers need. A guy in the middle of the park that gets about the park, who can tackle, who can score goals, who's brave on the ball, right? Shankland's perfect. I thought Danny Armstrong should have been playing at a higher level in Scotland rather than being allowed to go. I thought Penrice was an absolute stick-on. You go through our league and we've got players who could improve. I'm not saying they would turn Rangers into a title-winning team overnight, but they would certainly have improved them tenfold over what they have at the moment. And by the way, the boys they brought in, I'm sure, are all very talented players, but they're just not made of the stuff that you need when you're in the mess Rangers are in.
Yeah, and that's, I think, going forward, it has to be a focus on recruitment. It just has to be a focus on recruitment in terms of recruiting the best. And it doesn't even need to be, it's always kind of thrown in, it has to be the best young Scottish players. It doesn't necessarily, because the guys you have mentioned, Shankland, Penrice, for example, Danny Armstrong,
they're all
experienced guys.
mid-20s to 30.
And I think Rangers, and by the way, I would add Celtic into this as well, because I think if you look at Celtic's European squad, they've only got a 24-man squad, I think, because they don't have enough homegrown senior players. But they went to Luke McCown last summer. And you know what? Luke McCown maybe doesn't start every game, but that's just a good sign.
He's a good signing.
And I think Rangers have to get back to that.
I know they brought Lyle Cameron, who's again a good signing.
Again a good, and you've got Connor Barron there. We'll see what happens with John Suter. He's into the last 9 months of his deal.
Yeah.
It's gone very quiet in that.
If John Suter, and I hope he doesn't, for Scotland's sake as well as Rangers' sake, if he was to pick up an injury, they would really be struggling. Because he and Jack Butland have stood between them and maybe having no points this season.
I know. And that's, again, it just feeds into in terms of John Souttar, I think if you look at the Rangers central defence, I remember doing one of the transfer shows right at the start of the summer or after a couple of games, and I thought Nasser Jiga was outstanding. I thought, what a find. I'm saying a find, he's a £10 million player, but good one to get up on loan. He is falling off a cliff. Bill, he looks like one of me. It's at half time, and I think he looks like one who's really struggling. And I just wonder going forward now, and look, it's maybe not a good look for Rangers to take a guy up from Wolves who cost them £10 million and he's out the team. But I think Derek Cornelius, a Canadian with loads of experience,
who does look like a player,
will be put in next to John Souttar, because I think Russell Martin will clearly realise that he needs experience.
Well, look at the last couple of games you've seen Cornelius playing. The Wales friendly free kick, boof, there you go, winning goal. When they're struggling against Hearts, he puts one in the net that debatably could have stood. But he's made more of an impact in those two games when you're looking at him than these guys have made in the entire season.
He'll play, and I don't think it will. I think if you look at his background, he's played Malmo, big Swedish club, fervent fan base, gone to Marseille, played quite a lot last year, loads of caps for Canada. I think he'll play. But I think it feeds into what Russell Martin needs from his players going forward and needs for this team going forward. You look at it, he needs personality, he needs guys who'll go and take the ball, guys who won't cower among the toxic stuff coming towards them. And it also leads me to this question, Bill. Nico Raskin. Because I don't care what anybody says, and I know there's clearly issues, because you don't get banished for the game against Celtic, banished again for the Hearts game. Russell Martin wasn't given much away. It seems as if there's a real problem here. However, I think it comes to a point this week where they have to sit and thrash this out, because Russell Martin against Hibs, who are, I know they're leaking goals at the back, but they'll come for Rangers. They will come from, and they can score goals, and they're quick.
And they're good in the middle of the park.
I don't care what anybody says. I'm not saying Nico Raskin is the new Paul Gascoigne or anything, but he's as good as Rangers have got in the middle of the park, and they need to find a way. They need to find a way to sort this out. And I also think for Russell Martin's sake, just to finally, it would get the fans off his back in that front, because it's a two-pronged thing just now. It
would, and I felt as if when we had the story before the Old Firm game that he was being left out and why he's being left out, reading between the lines, he was a bad influence in the dressing room, basically, right? He's running about moaning or whatever he's doing. Stuff's getting leaked, maybe it's him, you don't know, right? He leaves them out. I'm thinking, Monday's the transfer window, the boy's away. Now, if he's not away, the manager's then got a problem, because he's got a player there who he doesn't want, unless he thinks he's smart enough to rehabilitate him and turn him round, whatever. And if that's the way he wants to spin it, that we've had him in, he's shown a lot of great attitude since he got his little warning, and now he's back in the team. Right, he gets away with it. But the longer he leaves him out of the team,
the longer he leaves him out of the team, it's clear as an issue. But see if Russell Martin, for his own sake, is going to leave him out again against Hibs, he has to come out on Friday and explain why. It can't just be, well, he has to earn the trust and all that sort of stuff. Because 9 minutes were on the clock. I looked up the first Nico Raskin chant. Now, it's 0-0, Hearts are in control of the game. The first Nico Raskin chant.
It was 20 minutes into the Celtic game before that, so it's getting quicker and quicker.
And as I said, if you are looking at a team that's scared, looking at a team that's anxious, it doesn't, nobody, whatever he's done, Nico Raskin would not be scared in that pitch. He would not be anxious. And it might just be that Russell Martin has to, and he maybe doesn't want to do it, but come to some agreement with Nico Raskin and say, right, you're back in the team.
I said this the last time I was on here, sat here with Robert, I said, we all have to work with people we don't like. and that's the thing, you don't have to love someone to have them in your team. Do you think Alex Ferguson or Bill Shankly or Jose Mourinho loves all their players? I mean, they'll love them as a group. They'll look at, if Alex Ferguson, Derek Cantona, and Eric Cantona's jumping into the crowd and kicking people, he would never criticise them publicly. He would not, and if he was dealing with somebody, it would never have come out the way it came out with Russell Martin.
I'll take you back to one of the chats you did last season, you and Robert up in Dundee with Gordon Strachan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gordon Strachan, of the modern age, the one that everybody knows they didn't see eye to eye was Gordon Strachan and Aidan McGeady.
And yet
I think Gordon said, I wasn't going to leave him out, I'm not daft.
No.
He knew that he could contribute to the team. He knew that he was one of Celtic's best players at the time. So, did they like each other? Would they be going for a coffee? No.
I mean, and also,
that doesn't matter.
And within every team, there'll be players who hate each other. There'll be players who can't hit it off. But on the day, you need each other.
What was the famous one? Andy Cole and Teddy Sheringham?
Andy Cole
never spoke.
Basically never spoke throughout their whole time, scored 50 goals between them, you know, etc. So I think he either has to play him or they need to, somewhere there's a window still open, get him out the door.
Because if he's not going to be playing and he's sitting in the stand,
it just becomes
a thing. It just becomes
a totem
distraction
for the fans, and it'll just be most players who aren't playing become better players, don't they? They're sitting in the stand. Oh, we need him back, you know. And while he's there, he just becomes this big beacon that the fans go, there's why this is happening.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I think for his own sake, as you say, whatever twist you want to put, whatever spin, whether it's a PR move, he has to be in the squad this weekend. Unless, and if he's not, or someone has to come out, this is why.
Aye. And he won't, and he will not play for me again, etc.
Yeah, because it can't go on. No, it can't just linger. It can't.
Having said all this, we've omitted to talk about how good Hearts were on Saturday. Derek McInnes's tactics, his team's work rate, everything about them was everything that Rangers weren't.
It was a perfect game plan for me, and look, I know there was a couple of questionable decisions. I think Lawrence Shankland get the benefit of the doubt with the goal. I think goalkeepers in general always, if you touch a goalkeeper, you get protected. The penalty for me,
it's a penalty.
It's a penalty probably, and there's not enough dubiety for it to be overturned anyway. But in terms of a game plan, I've watched a lot of Hearts this season. I've seen them play various formations, and it's always a thing. Before the game, you sit, whether it was Kilmarnock as well, you're thinking, how's he going to play today? Is it going to be a 4? Is it going to be a 3? And he goes this man-for-man thing. But it was such a bold move to take Harry Milne, who's been outstanding at left back.
What a good player he is.
He is a good player, but
play him at right back.
He almost played him at right wing.
Yeah.
And because he had Ocean McEntee, who's a midfielder, out at right back, and was just far too much for Mikey Moore, a big guy. And I think the most fascinating thing for me, because you're watching it and look, you've got an eye on what's happening shape-wise, but he was asked about his tactics after the game, and he gave this big rundown of been looking at heat maps of Rangers, been looking at where Rangers' details come from, where their threats come from, how they could get after Rangers, but that he also wanted to have a real attacking intent with a right-footed left winger in Kizaridis. He wanted Harry Milne strong on his left foot coming in from the right. He wanted to play with 2 strikers. He was asking a lot of Bringame and Cammy Devlin, and as he rhymed this off, you think to yourself, there is a manager who has come up with a game plan, who's executed it so well.
Knows his players inside out.
Knows his players inside out. But to me, the big thing, every single Hearts player on that pitch knew exactly what they were meant to be doing, where they were meant to be, and how they were meant to approach that game, and you could say the opposite about Rangers.
Yeah, another thing I found very interesting about Derek McInnes this season, with no disrespect to the players at Kilmarnock, who were very, very good, did a great job for him, with a better standard of player and with a deeper squad at Hearts, his in-game tactical changes. Remember watching the first game of the season against Aberdeen, where he was so far ahead of Jimmy Thelin, who we'll come to in a second, in terms of switching from a 3 to a 4 and back and doing, 1 striker, 2 strikers, 3 up front, and Jimmy Thellin's kind of second guessing him all the time. And I felt the same on Saturday. There was moments of the game where you could see Hearts just tweaked. Ever so slightly, just to shut the door and then open again and away.
I think he's good at getting balance in his team as well, because it was a feature of his Kilmarnock team. You mentioned Danny Armstrong. I watched Kilmarnock again a lot last season. You had Danny Armstrong and Matty Kennedy. You always had 2 wingers, but you always had 2 strikers. Whether it was Kyle Vassell, Marley Watkins, Bruce Anderson, whoever it was. And you think to yourself, how does he... Very few managers would now play with 2 out-and-out wingers and 2 strikers, but what he does is he compensates in the sense of, and you can see it against Rangers on Saturday.
Plays 4 centre-halves.
Plays 4 centre-halves, right. So you've got Kingsley, left back, can play centre half. Ocean McEntee at right back,
to play centre half,
who could be a centre half, centre midfielder, and then you've got Halkett and Finlay. But I don't see that as a bad thing, because if you actually look down south and you look at how often does Pep Guardiola play with 4 centre halves? Mikel Arteta. It's land of the giants.
Absolutely.
But if you've got that solid base, and Stephen Kingsley's got a great left foot on him, but Stephen Kingsley was told to play as a left back, but he wasn't venturing very far up the park.
Because that allows Kizaridis
doing that. Do that. So that then gives you the solid base, and that then lets Devlin, Bringame get after midfielders and jump up one. So I just thought, as a tactical master plan, I thought it was excellent.
One of the things I'm noticing is, if anybody does fixed odds will know this, Cammy Devlin is generally your yellow card every single week. It's not happening this season.
No, I know.
Because he's not being asked to do this. He's not being asked to be everywhere. It's just do your job, son. Do your job, stick to your task, get it sorted.
It was even he spoke about some of the Rangers' chances, and Gassam hits the post, and he actually said, well, I know why that happened, because our distances were a bit off in that move. So as I said, he must do a lot of work in terms of just getting the squad to work as a unit, the team to work as a unit. And as I said, I think he showed I get there's people out there that still think Derek McInnes is a bit of a old-fashioned manager. I think he showed on Saturday once again. Not that he had to prove himself, that he is very modern in his thinking, and he manages to get results.
He's a grown-up manager.
Yeah.
He understands the situation. He plays what's in front of him. He'll play a different system, you know, when they play Falkirk. He'll play a different system when they play, or certainly a different way of playing when they play Celtic. Yeah. You know, that's his thing. He doesn't have this. Back to Russell Martin. He's stuck with this. This is my way, and eventually it'll come good when these players come good. There is no time for that. And now David Gray's going to have watched that, and he's now going to be saying, right, what do we do? Let's. How does he go to Ibrox and play it the same way as Derek? He's not got the same kind of players as Derek McInnes has.
But I think he'll get. I think he'll. Listen, it's a different style. It's a three at the back. But I think his one big takeaway from watching Hearts is be aggressive, be on the front foot. Don't wait for Rangers to come onto you. Get pace in behind, try and pin them back. I think it was going to be a fascinating game in Saturday.
Pace in behind. Hibs have their weaknesses. They give away some silly goals. They can give the ball away in the middle of the park too easily sometimes. But when they get the ball down and say you've got Chris Cadden on one side, Jordan Beat on the other side, or Nicky Cadden on the other side, and you've got Boyle running, and you might have, you know, whoever else is on the other side, and then you've got Kieran Bowie through. Now, Kieran Bowie through the middle will give Rangers all sorts of problems. You saw what Jonah Ayunga and Miko Mandron did with St Mirren, for instance. You saw Lawrence Shanklin, you know. And I just think that, I mean, it's a great, you don't need to be a genius to know it's a great opportunity for Hibs to go there and get themselves to Hampden. But it's a really fascinating game.
I think it's going to be brilliant. Honestly, and as you say, you've got so many different little subplots within it, what happens, but listen, fundamentally, it's a game that Russell Martin, I think now he needs to win it, surely.
And that's all he has to do is win. I'm saying all you have to do is it's the most simple thing in football, but the hardest thing in football. But here's the biggest subplot. How many Rangers fans that are watching this right now actually want the team to win?
No.
And that, what a weird thing you would think is, you know, they're just not. They're now just going, whatever it takes, get him out the door. Now that might be unfair on him.
I think it is unfair, but what my response to that is then can he survive this? Can he survive it? Well, as in, because I've had a pound for every Rangers fans I've heard saying, you know, it doesn't matter what happens against Hibs, it's over, he's done, he's finished, and all that sort of stuff. So, is it irretrievable? Is Andrew Kavanagh and the 49ers, are they just being naive to what's going on?
I don't think they're naive. I just think they're in a position where they've given a lot of support. Kevin Thelwell's called him one of the best coaches he's ever worked with, and it's a huge loss of face to then let him go when he's part of a much bigger project in their eyes. My feeling was, after 6-0 in Bruges, when he started with all his signings in a first half where they were 5-0 down, I thought that was the end game for me. What if you've played all your hand and you've said, here's my new guys, these are the guys that will get us out of trouble, and you're 5-0 down in 40 minutes. To me, that said that A, the players weren't good enough that he brought in, B, he didn't know his best team, and C, when he brought on the guys who he didn't want in the team, was the only time they really showed it up. You know, when Tavernier comes in and Barron comes in, and you know, and Finlay Curtis comes on, and young boys like that. That was the only time in the Bruges game where they looked as if they weren't going to get a goal against them every time. And I thought that night was a masterclass in incompetence, to be honest. And I'm not saying he's an incompetent manager, but as Rangers manager, there is so much that anybody from outside can see as wrong.
Yeah, and I also think, just to go back to the Rangers fans wanting to win, I think the only way he can save his job now is if it goes on an absolute monster run. You know, and that means beating Hibs, that means winning the semi-final, that means doing okay in Europe, that means getting on a winning run. You know, you look at, I think Rangers are at Livingston, the next. So it's Hibs on Saturday night in the quarter-final of the Cup. Then Genk at home, which is huge. You know, Philippe Clement's whole team. Then Livy away.
And well, there are no easy games, right? But right now they could have done with a game coming out. You think, well, that's a banker, that's okay.
I know, but right now there isn't such a thing. So I think the only thing that saves them is a real mammoth winning run. I do.
Absolutely.
I think in terms of saves them in the eyes of the fans, I think the only way the fans are going to approach getting back on side.
First things first, win the League Cup.
Probably, yeah.
Get into at least into the playoffs in Europe, but which they've now got used to doing.
Yeah.
You know, but tough old time to be.
Oh, it is. It is.
To be Russell. He is, as a lot of them wearing Monday at Loch Lomond in over his head at the moment. Another manager who is toiling.
Yes.
And the man who everybody thought he is the anti-Russell Martin, because at the start of last season everybody thought he was the chosen one, is Jimmy Thelin. And now, that was a brilliant thing I saw this morning on our digital pages. Where there's a sign up on the roof at the stand at Pittodrie which says something like working hard to meet our zero net goals.
I know.
Anyway, and I think that's beautiful. They can't score. They've lost at home at Falkirk, they've drawn at home at Livingston, 0-0, lost 0-1. Out of Europe, it's just not happening. It's not out of Europe, out of Europe.
Yeah,
League.
it's not happening. I'd be worried. I just would be worried purely because I think there's now a body of evidence over a prolonged period of time.
Last season was difficult to tell, wasn't it? Because it was a season of two halves for them.
It was, but then Aberdeen kind of picked up maybe March, April time, and then they finished the season really, really badly again. Really badly. I think it's 1 point from the last 8 league games.
I don't think they won after the split, and then they obviously got the cup final, which was such a massive thing for the City.
The outlier is a cup final.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can look at it two ways. He's a legend. He did what nobody else has done in 35 years and won the Scottish Cup. The other side of that, and I've heard Aberdeen fans even say that, if Kasper Schmeichel doesn't throw the ball into his own net,
it's a terrible season.
It's a terrible season. Yeah. And Celtic have just, won a cup final without really turning up.
Absolutely.
I think the truth in that is probably somewhere in the middle. However, I'd certainly be worried. I always think that you need to see some sign of progress. He's been backed to the hilt. He's been backed unbelievably. Aberdeen are spending fortunes.
I've been critical of Dave Cormack in the past, but you cannot argue with his support, and also the business they've done to bring money into the club, because they've got players out. I mean, players that Pat Gay, Shayden Morris, who we know Aberdeen fans who neither of the two of them they were that bothered about, and they're suddenly £1.5 million in the door for them. The money for Majowski last season, they are becoming a very wealthy and very well run club. Yeah. But here's a thing that I think changes things with Stephen Gunn, the director of football, leaving. A new director of football might just come in and look and say, "Do you know, I've been watching this from outside and I'm seeing it, and
I actually think
I'm not having this."
I think Aberdeen have assembled a pretty good squad. I think if you look at, I do it because
I don't see goals.
But there should be, Carlson coming in. Yeah. Keskinen, you think to yourself, again, threatens to come good, but I think that's Aberdeen as a whole. Yeah. Kevin Nisbet will get you goals. I think beyond that, there's some interesting signings. I just look that with the squad that they've got, and I know Jimmy Thelin will say, "Oh, we're still integrating players and stuff like that." They should be getting a better tune out that
absolutely.
Squad. And
because this is a squad that won the cup.
My point of view is, I think he's very lucky. I think Aberdeen managers have been sacked for less. Yes. Put it that way. Yes. And it always comes down. Everybody you speak to about that, and I've got some close friends who are Aberdeen fans, and they're a bit torn as well because they are thinking about the Scottish Cup. The Scottish Cup.
Some of my best friends are Aberdeen fans.
But they think the Scottish Cup, it gave them one of the best days of their life, and they think to themselves, how can, you don't want to be Spurs, you don't want to win the Europa League and then say bye-bye Ange. They want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and they're invested in, and they've heard all the messaging of it's a 3-year project, it's this and that. But I say to them, but you've got 0 points in the league, you've not scored a goal in the league. Yeah. You had a nightmare after that crazy start last season. Yeah. I don't know the guy, but I don't know, I just want to see a bit more in terms of personality from him. I want to see a bit more passion from him.
A bit less of telling us how humble they are, and a bit more about how angry they are.
And I just look at Aberdeen, as you're saying, I think they've become a club that's trading quite well. I think they're finding interesting players. I think they're spending money, and I can't, for the life of me, find the kind of counter argument to say that another manager could be getting more out of that team.
Well, that's the thing. As a fresh pair of eyes, you don't like to see managers getting sacked, but a fresh pair of eyes in there might just come in and say, "Wow, this guy here needs to be used there." And sometimes, look at Thomas Frank at Tottenham, with basically the same players as Ange, and I love the way Ange played football, but he's taken Ange's stuff and tweaked it, and now suddenly they're winning games, but they're not threatening to lose a goal every time the ball goes up the park. And sometimes that's what it takes. It takes a different eye, I genuinely, when I watch Aberdeen now, I don't see an identity on the park.
No.
I don't see what they're trying to do. There's a lot of players doing stuff, but I don't, you can see very clearly. You watch Hibs, you watch Hearts, you watch Celtic. You very clearly see an identity of what they're trying.
And the interesting thing about that is the one game where Jimmy Thelin has changed his style was the Scottish Cup final.
Yeah.
Where he basically
Aye.
just tried to nullify Celtic as much as he could, went to fight.
And did it perfectly.
And did it perfectly. But they've then reverted to what they were doing before, what they were doing after, and it's not working.
It's not working at all.
And to get back to, we spent a lot of time there talking about the Rangers and Hibs quarter final. Aberdeen Motherwell on Saturday is huge for his future.
Absolutely.
I don't care what anybody says because I don't think for a second, and I would imagine it's going to be a really difficult one for Dave Kilmarnock just now because he has gone all in on Jimmy Thelin, all in on him. He's given him more backing than any other Aberdeen manager.
It's the same thing as the 49ers with Russell Martin. There's a lot of face in this.
And if they don't, and by the way, Motherwell go up and play football, Motherwell,
absolutely,
good team.
Very quick on the break.
And if that goes badly for Aberdeen, I wonder where those fans who are on the edge a little bit, they're still thinking of Hampden and they're still thinking,
but there's only so long.
It'll be fine.
There's only so long that keeps you warm at night.
They'll come good.
Yeah.
A really good squad, and I've said it myself, a really good squad. You just have to do it at some point. You have to. Yeah. And I think if Motherwell go and do a number on them, I would worry for Jimmy Thelin.
I would very much as well. Let's finish this week going back to the weekend, and Celtic needed a little bit of help from VAR to win on Sunday at Rugby Park. Stuart Kettlewell, I think, rightly upset when a ball gets cut back. If it hits the boy's arm, it's probably a penalty. When it hits off one Kilmarnock defender, bounces up onto his teammate's arm, I don't think it's a penalty kick. But John Beaton's called to the monitor and gives it. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts were it was extremely harsh. SFA were pretty quick to put out guidance after it. And it's interesting that Stuart Kettlewell we're recording Wednesday morning, he spoke first thing about it and said that he didn't bother phoning Willie Collum because he saw the statement and he realised that it would just be a waste of time because the SFA were just going to say, well, by the letter of the law, it's still a penalty. I know he'd made a big thing about that he'd seen a similar incident in a kind of pre-season briefing. I think the SFA are probably disputing that. I think they're kind of trying to claim behind the scenes that it was a different one that was shown. So I think Stuart Kettlewell, I think he still feels extremely hard done by. He still thinks it was a terrible decision. He's not going. He doesn't seem to chase it because I think his view is that the SFA have already got their kind of excuses in. For me, I just don't like seeing that kind of penalty given, Bill. And that might be, well, it's the law, it's the law. Well, I don't care. I genuinely don't think, right, that if John Beaton had gone over and went, don't be so stupid, and just said play on, I don't think you'd get that much backlash from it. I genuinely don't. I think most Celtic fans out there would have been saying that would have been harsh. Can you imagine that's given up the other end? I mean, there would be uproar.
I was watching Ref Watch on Sky on the Monday with Dermot Gallagher, and it was Jay Bothroyd, the old England striker, and both of them. I mean, sometimes the ref on these things goes, well, it's Dermot Gallagher, not a penalty. Not a penalty. I wouldn't be. In fact, they both said that they were fully expecting when he went across to the monitor to come back and say, no. On we go.
When I was actually watching the game, I was really surprised because obviously the commentators are kind of getting the rear that there's going to be a check just so they can keep up to date. When Ian Crocker and Sky had actually said, he said, there's actually going to be, and I was actually surprised. I'm thinking, seriously? Because I get that the counter argument is maybe that Lewis Mayo comes out like that, but when the ball deflects up, listen, I come back to it. The SFA could probably sit and say, well, if you actually look at the rules, it's spot on. Nobody can convince me that.
No. And this is where I feel a bit sorry for Willie Collum because he's tried to be very transparent and I think he's done a great job in making refereeing more accessible. And he has these regular briefings and he does his stuff online every week. I'll be interested to see what the key instant panel thinks of that.
I wonder if the key instant panel says it wasn't a penalty, but when Willie does his reverse show, he might actually say, well, look, it's a bit unfortunate.
But there's the thing that's above his pay grade is the letter of the law. They don't make the laws. And I think handball and offside are the two big rules now, where the letter of the law and what's right for football are two totally different things. That is wrong. When a team has worked that hard and two guys charge in to try and stop one, they don't put their hands out, they don't try and stop the ball. It doesn't even, if it hits the first guy in the arm and it's going in, that's a penalty. But when it comes off somebody's knee and then hits somebody on the arm, I think it's incredibly unfair. And I think Stuart Kettlewell was very restrained.
He was, and I think Bobby Madden, former referee, referred to it as the old penalty lottery again, because you just don't know what you're going to get.
Well, do you know, we've seen this with Rangers and Celtic before when they do their kind of, yaboo playground stuff with each other, and one of them gets a decision now, and they always say, we'll be watching very carefully for the next time. And if you're Stuart Kettlewell, and it's one of these ones, they play St Mirren on Friday night, if it was to happen the other way around, and it wasn't.
Yeah, exactly, and that's part of his press briefing on Wednesday morning. He actually said that. He said, look, I'll accept it. If that's the rules, that's the rules. But his point was, a precedent has now been set for the rest of the season. And I think he's quite right.
I think he's absolutely right. Because by the end of the season, goals like that, points like that,
important. They are. But yeah, we'll see. Let's hope there's no controversy this week. In fact,
let's there's loads of controversy. Wherever you're going this weekend, enjoy. Thanks for watching us again. Like and subscribe. Leave your little comments down there somewhere, whenever you see it. And we will speak to you very soon. Wherever you go this weekend, look after yourself. Enjoy your football.